Hi there. I've been thinking again about what I called a few weeks ago. I asked the question, is spirituality cool again? And I've been thinking about this spiritual renewal, is what I suggested. And I think with time and distance, I'm becoming fearful that whatever spiritual awakening was happening in those few moments, we're now forgetting what we felt on that Monday night in America. We've moved on to the next football game, right? We have a big one just here in a few weeks. Maybe you didn't see this, but Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, who was the team that DeMar Hamlin plays for when all this happened, and that, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, go back to a few weeks ago, January, first couple videos in January, talking about a Monday Night Football event. But Josh Allen, he said this. I said this in my press conference the other day. He said there was just kind of a spiritual awakening, really, for me. And I know for a lot of other people that maybe didn't have the strongest belief or wasn't one of the biggest, strongest Christian followers. He realized that there was something spiritual happening in that moment. So here's where I think we are today. I said maybe the phrase time heals all wounds is at least partially true. It at least seems to be cooling some of the spiritual temperature that was elevated. I promise you this is the last time I'm going to talk about this. We'll move on to other topics next week. But I've listened to some podcasts that were made shortly after that event, and I realized that we are kind of returning back to our old ways, and becoming status quo again. Spiritual apathy, and probably even some cognitive dissonance. Now, that's a word that's probably not familiar to many of us. I even looked it up to make sure I was using it properly. But if we define cognitive dissonance, the idea is it's having two very different beliefs about something at the same time. Or it's the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. So here's what I'm saying. We have some cognitive dissonance with this spiritual renewal. We believe that something important should have happened. People were called to prayer, and many people did. So here we are a month later. Do we still believe that? Or do we having two existent thoughts? We think we should pray, but I'm not going to do it. There's an inconsistency between our thoughts and our actions. Not to get all psychological on you, but there's a link to an article in the details for this video. 4 ways to address cognitive dissonance that you should fix it. One is change your behavior or act on the things that you think you should. The second is change the thought. You just have to change the way. You don't have to do that. Don't worry about it. The third is to clarify your thoughts so that they kind of align somehow. Or fourthly, you can just disregard the info and then there's no problem at all. But I think as I thought about the idea there, Jesus would just call that hypocrisy. If you read Matthew 23, he calls it out pretty strongly in a lot of places. But Scripture, in many other places, the Psalms, I'm going to give you in just a moment, is recounting Israel's history. And the reason for that is because God does not want his people, us, anyone whose temperature is spiritually elevated, to forget what he has done. And that's why Israel's history is recorded, so that we can see their mistakes. Psalm 78:42 says, "They did not remember his power or the day when he redeemed them from the foe." I think we are approaching that day again. So I want to just kind of conclude that with my time today. Don't let the temperature cool. It's not something we can afford to forget. And I told you I thought it was a very profound and powerful spiritual moment that night, and I saw a spiritual awakening in America, and I'm afraid, just like 9/11 and many other events, that with time and distance, we're kind of forgetting about those things. So I'd ask you again to pray once again for that temperature to remain elevated. I preached a few weeks ago, January 22nd, a message called Heart Attack, and you can go back to the same Facebook page or our YouTube page and see that. And the idea was that God uses crisis moments to get our attention. So I would encourage you, don't waste a good crisis. Use it to be reminded of where you want to be and need to be spiritually. And as I said, this is the last time I want to talk about this theory, this idea, and we'll come back to some of the things next. By the way, anytime you have questions, thoughts, or suggestions, you can send me a personal message, put a post in the comments, whatever. Always encourage you to like and share. Hey, again, thanks for watching. And again, don't waste a good crisis. And we'll see you soon. Have a great day.